Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the MX Endurance Podcast, where we look at everything that's been happening in the world of endurance sports. My name is Tim Ford, and I'm joined by none other than the penultimate legend, the sexy shepherdess. We're going to have some shepherdess talk today in this episode. The sexiest voice in triathlon himself, James Bell. Welcome back, mate. You were missed last week. How you going?
Yeah, sorry about last week. My internet completely went to pot, mate, and I was getting zero point 0.3 megabytes per second download and 0.006 on the upload. So I don't think it would have worked last week, and I appreciate you subbing in that last minute call up, slightly budget James Bale replacement.
He's got his voice certainly isn't as sexy as yours, and I love that you're like, last week I had a problem where we've been struggling to record this podcast for about a month. It's not me, it's not my internet.
Yeah, they've been sacking my internet company. Been sacking me off, saying there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it, but there is, and I had to pay them some money, and they fixed it. I think they broke it, and I had to pay them to fix it. But there you go. And as you can see, I've slightly moved position again. I've been on a constant room rearranged, but I've got my pull-up bar here in case I get bored during the. If you're waffling on, I can do some pull-ups during the. During the episode.
Surprised you're not wearing a t-shirt, so you can just casually reach up and like flex the bicep.
Yeah. Oh, where's the gym, Ford? Around here somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. What's that thing over there? Again, these are the audio listeners. These are the visual gags you miss out on.
This is why you should watch us on YouTube, because we are gold in the visual medium. How are you, Mr. Ford?
Yeah, I'm absolutely exhausted, mate. I'm glad it's Easter 4-day weekend. We are gearing up for I am gearing up for a big week of training. Then I'm away for a futures camp next week on the Gold Coast. We've got 20 young athletes. I'm away with Chris and Belinda Granger and a whole bunch of other people. We're going to be doing a camp. We've got some good little triathletes, which will be cool. So yeah, just getting ready for that. But I think the plan is, I don't know. I've been given this session by my coach Reese the last few weeks, and it's a 180-kilometer bike ride with 101 kilometers of efforts in the 180-kilometer ride. So it started as 140, then up to 160, and it's been 180 for like 2 or 3 weeks. And I don't know why I find this session so fucking hard to do. Like mentally, I can't do it or something. I go through the motions, but I'm never able to like push or hit the anyway. So last weekend I thought, fuck this. It's time to man up, stop being a sook, get out there and get it done. And I swear to you, the second I left, sunny morning, perfect day, like perfect weather for riding a bike. Leave the house, starts raining. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And again, for reference, the week before, I spent almost the entire 180 kilometers in the rain, being miserable, just going, I'm committed to my sport. This is a hobby. I do this for fun. I'm having fun. I got about 6K in and I'm just like, no, I cannot do this again for another 170 kilometers. So I came back and I tried to do the session on the trainer.
Ooh. 100. You tried to do 180K session on a trainer.
I tried. I tried to do a 180-kilometer session on the trainer. I failed. I got to 100 and I got to 110, and I mean, like, I was questioning my life choices. It was hideous. I got it. I did anyway. Didn't end up doing the session properly, but I got back on the trainer on Sunday. Did another 70K just to make up the 180. So I did. But anyway, long way of saying I'm going to do this. My main mission this weekend is to go out there on Saturday and try to do the session again and do it properly for once. So that's my my little thing.
I mean, I think, I don't know, from a performance perspective, doing 180K on the bike with intervals in the middle, if you're going to do a long ride like that, putting some efforts into a long ride is always a good thing. I think from a mental digestion perspective, having it laid out as a 180K ride with a certain amount of efforts in the middle, it's harder, I think, as an athlete to get your head around that, because it becomes less of a day out doing your long ride and more of a session. So I would be more inclined to say to somebody, go and ride 180K. Within that, just put some efforts in when you can, as opposed to laying it out like a session. Because I think for the brain, that's a little bit. I'm not questioning Mr. Reese's methods, but for the brain, that's a tough one. That's a tough one.
I think that's the thing, because I know physically, like every other session I do, I do okay. But yeah, this one, it is truly a mental struggle. Another little
and
mental.
If your plan just said go and ride 180K, you'd just go and ride 180K, wouldn't you? You'd just be like, all right.
I'd complain a little bit because I do 70.3s and
Yeah.
it's a long way.
But your efforts would be the inclines that you go up. Do you know what I mean? You have those natural efforts in a session like that anyway. It's not, unless you're Tim Ford and you just ride round and round and round the same park all the time, which is what I heard you did last week. Do you not do exactly the same bike ride all the time?
I literally every single time I go for a bike ride go the same place.
So does your bike ride not have any inclines or
Yeah,
declines? It's
it's
just
got
a
like
flat park.
no, it's not a park. It's a cycle path. It's a path.
Oh,
It's
I
got
thought you were just going round and round a small
no,
park.
mate. I'm not a complete psychopath. It's so from my house to the end of where I ride and back is 101 kilometers with 1,000 meters of elevation.
Right. Okay. All
And
right.
I shouldn't say do every ride. Every time I have a structured workout, I go there because it's 40K, closed to cars, no traffic lights. I actually like it's boring as fuck. But from a training point of view, you
Yeah.
couldn't
It's
like,
like
and
being on
again,
Zwift.
yeah, exactly. Like, if I'm going out to just go out for a nice bike ride, it's not my go-to. I'm sure I'd go, go north to the national parks or something. But like for actual workouts, there's nowhere better. And yes, but my runs, however, every single run I do, I go the exact same way, Like, and I love it.
Yeah.
My
I
run
mean,
is
I'm very similar like that. I've got two options when I go at my house, left or right. And there's not, you know, most runs I go right or I go right and I do the same thing. Left is a bit more, but I mean, it's just you just run from your front door, don't you? It's not, there aren't many options around here.
what's really exciting for me, and if I say exciting, uh, because I run on Sydney has so the harbour turns into a river, and I live on the river, and the path goes a fair way along. I've run as far as I can along the river before it goes off, and it's not you go down the road. But they're now talking that they're about to completely link the harbour and the river, so you'll be able to run the entire way along the coastline all the way to the city. And at first I was like, beautiful, like how good is this going to be? Like this is perfect for me. And then I heard that because of all the inlets and the extras and stuff, it's nearly 100 kilometers. I thought, yeah, that ain't happening. I'm not that keen to run the whole way. Thank you very much. But
As an ultra, mate, there. Love it.
not for me. Not for me. But
Not
maybe
for
that will
you.
one day. Not for me.
Yeah.
We should get into it, mate, because this podcast is the official podcast of MX Endurance, World's premier endurance sports community, created by four-time world champion and last week's co-host,
Sometimes
Chris.
podcaster.
Sometimes podcaster, Chris. Actually, I should say, I don't know if I know for MX guys, you'll have seen it. We put up a survey in the MX group this week, as well as on the MX WhatsApp group. Me and Chris have started a new podcast together. It's not a triathlon podcast. It is a very different. Very different to what we do here. But we've created a survey where it's three short answers. If you are listening, you've seen us put that, please jump in. It takes 2 seconds to just go in and answer. That would be a big help because we have something pretty exciting that we're working on at the moment. So that would be a big help. But James, we have a lot to talk about this week. A lot. And we discussed earlier how we're going to get into it, and we are going to start with one of our favorite topics. And that topic is none other than Lionel Sanders. This came across both of our screens in the last 24 hours. The news that Lionel Sanders will not be focusing on racing Nice this year. He is instead focusing on the 70.3 distance. What more do you need from the article except for that? What do you think, James Bale?
I think from a sensible performance standpoint, he's making a very good choice to focus on his strengths and prioritize the 70.3. From a oh, for God's sake perspective, I really wish he was going to go and race Nice. He feels like the perpetual underdog, even though he's had some amazing results in his time. He's gone from being sort of 2017 Lionel Sanders, sort of Rocky 1, whereas now I feel like he's sort of in the Rocky Balboa stage of his career. The comeback and I want to see him racing the big races. It's a shame because Nice will be a very unique, in my mind, snapshot of the Triathlon World Championships, because between you and I don't think it'll last being away from Kona, because I think it's one of the worst decisions they've made is to do this sort of breakup of the men's race and the women's race. I think something will change. So I think this year will be a very unique individual snapshot of something. And I wish he was there to race it because, you want to see him go toe to toe with everyone else there that is going to be racing it. I think Lionel Sanders has got a good shot on a course like Nice. You never know. I think there are various athletes that I see going into that race that I am putting with a slightly better chance of winning it than I would if they were going into Kona. Joe Skipper's an example, someone like that. And I just want to see Lionel there adding his 2 pennies. But from his perspective, he's probably making the right call. What's your take on it?
Well, firstly, just so audio listeners know, you are now doing bicep flexes while recording, I noticed. There's, again, I always love it because it's a little sort of headline, but I think there's so much to discuss, which is why we're talking about it on the show. But the starting point for me is where we went a few weeks ago when we were talking about Lionel having that crash at Clash Miami on the race course, where I actually think it came out that he had his pedal the wrong way up and clipped the pedal when he was going around a corner and came down. But off the back of that, I think I brought up, I wonder what that sort of crash will do, knowing that there's a race like Nice coming up that is an extremely technical course. And it's funny because on paper, you said that saying that you think a course like Nice would maybe make it a better chance of winning it. My gut instinct is to go, I actually think it'd be the opposite with Lionel. But then I look at St. George, a course that had a fuck ton of climbing, and he came fucking second. Like,
exactly.
We know that.
I mean,
we know that he can run really well.
St. George, though, in terms of the technicality of it.
Yeah.
St. George had a fuck ton of climbing, but it wasn't that sort of, you've got to be a serious bike handler to do it. So that is to his detriment. But I'm talking, I think when it comes to Nice, I'm thinking in terms of the climate and the humidity might suit him a little bit more. But, I interrupted you. So carry on your point.
No, it's okay. So yeah, that's my thinking, though. So I mean, straight away, I think this is an excellent decision. I think I've always thought that Lionel is a exceptional 70.3 athlete, one of the best to ever do the sport. And he's not to say he's a bad Ironman athlete, but I've always felt that when he's tried to really go at the Ironman, it's been to the detriment of his middle distance racing, which is where I think he's exceptional at both. But I feel like there's only so many 70.3 world titles available, and we've got these, pesky Norwegians and stuff around at the moment, and they've got their, teeth stuck into it. You know what? Have a crack. Like, he's got a new baby. Maybe he doesn't want to do the amount, and I'm not trying to question his professionalism, but maybe he doesn't want to do the sort of volume that's required to be, podium at a Ironman World Championships. Maybe that's part of it. But I think objectively, or I guess as you sort of said, like on paper, I think it's a smart decision. Personally, though, I'm just like, fucking hell, I really, really, really want Lionel Sanders to be at Nice. Like,
because as consumers of an entertainment package, we don't want them making the smart decisions all the time, do we? We want that narrative to be an interesting and dynamic and fluid one. We want it to be like, oh, he's gone and done this. What's going to happen? Oh, we want him to race Nice. I want him to race Nice. He ain't going to race Nice. That's a shame. But we're still going to have some good contenders and competitors on that start line. I'm really excited to see what Joe Skipper can do in that race, mate. I really am.
Oh, mate, I'm like, again, and I know Joe really, really well. I speak with Joe a lot. Like, he came fifth in Kona, and he cannot race in the heat. Like, we talk about a lot of people who are like, I struggle in the heat. He cannot run he struggles in the heat. So he's a big boy. Like, yeah, I think Joe is going to do so. And again, don't forget, Joe's got an extremely strong road cycling background. So he's got exceptional bike handling skills too, which I think is going to do him, a lot of good. And again, I'm not trying to be biased here. I am purely being objective.
He's certainly got the body shape and type that doesn't cope with the heat. Me and Joe are the same height and the same weight, so I know I can relate.
I mean, you guys are so similar in so many ways. It's remarkable.
The similarities are endless. But yeah, we have similar problems running in the heat. I'm a cold weather man every day of the week. But talking about Joe Skipper, I got a message off him last week. The last podcast I was on, I'd mentioned that they didn't do the biological passport in triathlon.
Yeah,
I was wrong.
Yeah.
I didn't realize they did. And Joe messaged me and was like, "Oi, so mea culpa, man. I got that wrong. I thought I knew something that I didn't know."
I don't know if I said it on the show, but he was telling me after that, he said that after he spoke about the lack of doping control in sport on his podcast, he got tested twice, like immediately afterwards. I'm like, yeah, that's not a coincidence. I think that's very funny. But We're not here to talk about Joe. We love you, mate, but we're not here to talk about you. We're talking about Lionel Sanders and his decision to not race Nice. The other question, and you brought this to my attention because I've sort of gone off the PTO content a little bit lately. I'm a bit bored of it all, but you were telling me about this post you saw put up from their secret pro, which was basically saying that they think they're at the point where they've accepted that maybe Lionel Sanders won't win a world title. He'll probably still win a few other races, but 70.3 or Ironman world title are probably beyond his grasp. What do you think about that?
What I think this leads me to believe is there isn't actually a secret pro. They just listen to our podcast, take our opinions, and package it up as a secret pro's opinion. Because have we not been saying that for the last 12 months?
Mate, I feel like when we first copped a lot of heat was for some comments about this exact thing, and this is probably 2 or 3 years ago. This is 2020 maybe, because again I've been quite vocal about this, and again I've copped it as a result of it. I think Lionel is an absolute legend, but I just feel like he's not quite at that top tier, and there's a lot of people that aren't. But having said that, we're about to see him fully commit to that Finland 70.3 race. Maybe. I wouldn't be surprised if he did it. If he pulled it off with the way
How cool would that be?
Fuck, man.
How cool would that be?
It would be phenomenal. Like, it actually would be so good to see. Like, I get what this secret pro sort of saying. But I do think that, I mean, on paper, I understand that he's younger, but we said this before, like, his athlete age might be a bit older, and he's pushed himself so hard, and I wonder how many more the big ones he has. But it is one of those, again, I always say that I find being a Lionel fan a bit frustrating. It's because we're going through like another one of these cycles a little bit where he's ditched the coach. I'm not doing Ironman anymore. I'm just doing it's like, okay, all right, here we go again. Buckle up, ladies and gentlemen. We're about to go down a wild ride. But again, if that means we get to see him doing some, really great racing, yeah, it's good. It's very, very good.
We are the secret pro, basically, aren't we? That's what comes out of this story. Me and you.
Who do you think it actually is? Because I read it, and like I have an idea who I think it is, but
who do I think it is? For some reason, I think it's a bloke.
I do too.
Do you know what I mean?
I definitely think it's a guy.
But that's just, I don't know where that comes from. Who do I think it is? Someone who likes to talk. I wouldn't be surprised.
It's not trash talk either, though. It's always quite reasoned.
No. Yeah. I don't mean it in a trash talky way, but like,
see, to me, I think
it's Cody Beals or something.
To me, it's very obvious. Oh, not obvious. I don't actually know who it is, but when I read it, I imagine who. Like the first time I read it, I was like, Jan Frodeno.
You think it's Frodeno?
I think it's Frodeno. Like you read,
I don't think he can be asked. Can he?
I don't know. I feel I don't. Again, I'm probably very guilty of just going, oh, everything's Jan. But I remember there's been a few of them I've read, and again, I'm like, yeah, that sounds like something Jan would say. So
I get a sort of Cody Beals feel from it.
Okay,
a slightly considered way of thinking about things. Not afraid to put his opinion forward, but not in a sort of trash talky way. Just that's kind of how I see it. But
I wonder what the actual requirements are to be like a secret pro, because is it an actual like pro, or is it a pro?
Or is it just pro card?
Exactly.
Yeah. It's
John,
Dave down the road.
Yeah, John Smith, who we've never actually heard of, but he's got a pro card and races locally in Canada or something. He's like, I'm a pro. I'm the secret pro. Hopefully not. But look, again, I think there's positives and negatives to this. It's a very, I think, again, assuming that it's coming from a purely I'm playing to my strengths. I think it's quite a sophisticated decision from Lionel. I think it takes a lot to put up your hand and go, I'm going to opt out of this last year. And it's interesting again, because don't forget, Sam Long did this exact thing last year and sort of copped a bit of heat. I think we probably praised it a fair bit, but I think Sam and Lionel are very different athletes. And I've got some things to talk about with Sam later.
I think we praised Sam's decision, didn't we? Because we were like, that's quite cool. He's taking a year and he's doing all these bits and pieces.
He's
also
wants to do 26 at the time or something. So.
Yeah, but he wasn't doing but when the year started and he wasn't doing very well at any of those bits and pieces he decided to do, that's when I think we were like, oof. He went to do Up the Airs and that didn't work out, and various other bits and pieces. But
didn't he do it on a one by?
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah,
that's what I heard. But I mean, that must have been a tough day out.
Must have been a tough day out. Well, it looks
Yeah.
like he also had a tough day out over the weekend at the next race we're going to talk about, which is Oceanside 70.3. Now, there's a lot to talk about with this race that is not just the race. Do you want to? I think we should. Do you want to talk about the race first, and then do we want to talk about the broadcast, or?
I didn't watch it because it was the wrong time of day for me. But I had many messages from many people moaning about the broadcast. But let's do the race first,
Okay.
and then we can get into our usual why can't this sport do something right talk.
All right. So we'll start with the men's race, and I think we both basically picked the win. To be honest with you, I think we both said, "Oh, so you went." That was me and Chris. Leo Berger won. He was clear leader in the swim. He got out, I think well and truly ahead of everybody. Onto the bike, I found this. Sam Long rode to the front of the bike, and he had a 2.5 minute gap to Leo out of the water. I think got out of the water like in 30th position or something. So he made up over 2.5 minutes to make it to the front of the race, and there was a group of 4 of them. Yeah, I should have the actual full breakdown, but I'm just sort of I've written a few dot points down. But there was basically Sam and Leo got off the bike first and second, and I think it was Jackson and someone else. So there was basically 4 of them off the bike together, and then Sam Long and Leo sort of went, and Leo pulled away from Sam a little bit. I think he got about 30 seconds on him. What was interesting though, so Jason West, who was one of the people I was very, very curious to see how he was going to go. He had a 3-minute gap off the bike to Leo Berger. 3 minutes. And again, we're talking Leo Berger is not he's a very, WTCS world champion. Halfway, the gap was 2:09. And then another 5 kilometers later, it was down to 1:22. And at the finish line, Leo Berger only beat him by like 12 seconds or something. So if this race was another 500 meters long, Jason West probably would have run down Leo Berger for the win. So he ran a 107 off the bike to get second place. So in first place, we had Leo Berger, 3:45.25, Jason West, 3:45.37, Jackson Laundry, last year's winner, 3:47.38. And then the other one that was interesting was Sam Long, who was in 7th place, was way back in 3:52.19. What do you think about that, mate?
I think it's great to see Leo Berger do what he did in a race like this. I was listening to your podcast you recorded last week, and I concurred. I had picked him for the win, even remotely, even though it's not. There's no record of that pick, but I had picked him to win this race and I love to see it. I love to see the 2022 World Triathlon champion come across and do a 70.3 like this and win it in the fashion that he did. But I also love that dynamic at the end with Jason West chasing him down, because that man can run. And Leo Berger only just held on for the win. He must have been getting times and splits and
Shin
doing
bricks.
calculations. Yeah, exactly that. Just because, when someone's you're bleeding time like that to somebody, it's a long road suddenly. It takes something to hang on to that, because he was going a significant amount faster than him. So good work on that. When it regards to Sam Long, it's a shame that he's not up there. I think we're going to see his lack of swim ability really coming to the fore nowadays with people like Leo Berger coming across and short course athletes really making that leap up to 70.3, and 70.3 almost becoming a sort of an addition to the short course, if you know what I mean. It's kind of gets packaged with that rather than it does with the Ironman. I think that lack of swim ability is really gonna become prominent in Sam Long's racing career, and he needs to do a lot to tackle that.
Well, I think that's exactly right. Like I've always thought of Sam Long, he's this incredible bike runner. His swim's been bad, but it almost feels to me, this might be what you're saying, where the reason his swim seems to have gone backwards is because these new wave of swimmers have come through, which means that gap is even bigger than it was in the past, because we're seeing him consistently, 2, 3, like well back compared to, that sort of back of the middle pack that he seemed to be a couple of years ago. But what I'm noticing as a result of that is because he always rides to the front of the race, he always makes up that bike deficit. His run almost seems a bit toothless as a result of it. And I'm not talking like he's still not a bad runner, but he was, like I said, he finished 7 minutes behind and he got off, like he lost 7 minutes to Leo Berger, which I would have considered, like, Sam Long is capable of running a sub 70-minute 70.3 run split to me. And again, maybe the Oceanside course is a little bit different, but, like, I've always sort of Sam as like genuinely one of the best 70.3 runners around. So I'm starting to wonder if it is what you're saying, that extra swim gap is mean that he's going to have to go even harder on the bike to make up that deficit, which then means that his legs are a bit soft. And again, back to Joe, because I've had this conversation with Joe a lot about, I talk a lot about athletes and stuff with Joe, and he's like, that's the thing with Sam, right? It's like Sam Long has traditionally always been a very high volume athlete, like 35, 40 hours, like, huge volume, and a young guy doing this huge, huge volume. Eventually your body's going to adapt to that, right? And you can't just keep adding more and more on. So, like, I'm really, and again, early days, I know that Sam's changed coaches and he's working with Dan Plews now, and I think Dan is probably the best coach in the world. I know that we all talk about the Norwegians. It's we know Christian, everybody loves the Norwegian method, but I think Dan Plews is probably the best coach in the world. And I assume that he's going to have the results, or he's going to see changes in Sam. I think maybe it's just a bit early, but at the moment, this narrative of Sam Long just failing to meet the expectations that we all sort of set from him based on what happened a couple of years ago, it's continuing. And I find that a little bit, again, disappointing. Like, Sam is another guy like Lionel. I want to see him do well. Like, I think of that race, that running race they had in the Collins Cup last year was probably one of my highlights of the year. So to see this sort of stuff where he just doesn't feature, like, he didn't feature at Roth, he obviously got the bullshit penalty at 70.3 Worlds, but, like, it's just this constant thing of him just not really being part of the action. And I don't know, how long until the polish rubs off?
Because we see that character, whether you like his character or you dislike his character, he brings character to the sport, which is what we need. We don't want a load of robots out there just racing to numbers. He brings a different dynamic to a sport. But if we're moving into an era where you're starting to see any weakness, any significant weakness across any three of the sports starts to count you out, then it kind of doesn't matter, does it, anymore? You start to, like we've said so many times, and I had a conversation with someone the other day actually about how you're going to start seeing people not able to crack into triathlon later in life because you have to be a very good swimmer, a very good cyclist, and a very good runner. And that's a starting point. And then you grow from there. And I think we'll start to see any weakness really become a problem. And I think that is where he's at, because he's a very strong biker, and he's, like you say, he's a very good runner on his day, but he's always having to make up a deficit. Always. Now there's no race where he's not making up a deficit.
Minutes too, like, not a small, we're not talking about a small gap, we're talking like a huge chunk of time, and you're not riding against other people who can't ride a bike, right? Like, the people that you're catching up to can fucking ride a bike too. And
yeah, absolutely. Gone are the days where someone like Cam Worth would just be absolutely trouncing everybody. Gone are the days where, in my mind, a retired Lance Armstrong could come and rely on his bike and and expect to come and win Kona. I know he didn't, but he expected to, just based on the fact that he thought he could outride everybody and then hang on. Gone are those days, because I think we're really starting to see specificity as a triathlete within the professional ranks. Yeah, thanks for saving me there, mate. I couldn't find that word.
It is interesting. I was thinking while you're talking, though, because you're right, that because traditionally, right, we always say that the swim doesn't matter as much at middle and long distance. It's because it's, if you're a short course athlete who goes to middle or long, if you're like Ashley, let's use Ashley Gentle as an example. Incredible athlete, the best middle distance athlete at the moment in the women's field. I still think she would have won 70.3 was if she went race last year. Prove me wrong. Can't bet on. Not a very good swimmer at short course, but we always expected that not to be a big issue because of how good her run was when she went to middle distance. But looking at men's middle distance at the moment, the swim is becoming a super big factor, while in short course, the weaker swimmers, who are the super bike runners, are actually doing the Hayden Wilds, the Alex Yees. These guys are doing really well at the moment. It's almost opposite. Like, it's just, I was thinking about it. It's true, right? Like, those real front pack swimmers, the Tylers, the Vinces, the Henrys, the Jamies, those short course superfish aren't having. I mean, Vince won a WTCS race last year, but we're not seeing that traditional athlete do as well. But it's starting to come and be a thing at middle distance. So I just find that interesting, that it is that sort of switch.
Yeah, I mean, the swim never used to matter that much because the swim wasn't that good.
Mm.
You know, as the swimmers involved in the swim improve, it starts to matter more. And if you're a good bike runner, but you've got a 3 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute, 4 minute deficit to make up because someone who is a cracking swimmer has held the front of a swim pack and dragged everyone along, and people are putting minutes into you, that's when it starts to matter. I mean, longer ago, the swim was just a swim. And yeah, you had some good swimmers, but those really good swimmers were traditionally not the best bikers or runners. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas now the really good swimmers can still hammer a good bike and hammer a good run.
Mm.
And so you're starting to see it matter more. And I think you'll start to see it matter more and more as the sport becomes quicker and quicker, and people are thoroughbred triathletes through and through.
Yeah.
Which I think is what we're going to start seeing.
Well, again, that's another. I feel like we've been saying that. That's another narrative that we've been saying on this show for what feels like years at this point as well. And again, it's funny because we act like it hasn't already happened, but you look at a lot of the. I mean, look at a lot of the people who are coming through and having the success are former short course athletes. It's funny how quickly you forget that these guys, if they step up and you're like, oh, that's all they've done. They have no life before short course, or before long course. But yeah, great racing. I think Jason West is 100% somebody to watch this year. I really do believe that we're going to see him do exceptionally well at those PTO events. I would be surprised if we don't see him a lot high. So I think he moved up to 15th in the PTO rankings after this result. I think we're going to see him, I'd almost say maybe top 3 based on if he does really well at those PTO tour events. And that should be enough to get it. So I really hope we see Jason West do them all. I'd love to see him just follow and do all the PTO events, because with that run, I know he's going to be hard. And he's not a shit swimmer, shit biker. Like he's not losing minutes and minutes and minutes. So
No.
it's exciting to see. And again, Jackson Laundry, we never praise him enough, but 3rd place for Jackson, great performance in that field. Well done, Jackson. So,
well, I can't remember. Was it when you recorded last week? Was that before or after Frodeno had pulled out?
he pulled out like a week ago, didn't he? No,
So
he had.
Did you know when you had? Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gutted, mate. I didn't get to say how gutted. I just want to formally put on air how gutted I was about
I think
that.
that's what we said. That's what we were talking about, right? Because I was saying how much I lost interest in the race once.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah,
once
you did,
Jan with you. Yeah. Again,
come on, sport. Come on.
I do,
come on.
again,
You follow any other sport, you know who's going to be on the pitch or the track. You know who's going to be racing when.
I'm going to be talking about this later, mate. Trust me. I've got something to talk about after watching a certain car race in Melbourne over the weekend. No, but you're like, I do, just back to Lionel, because you mentioning Jan pulling out. I do wonder if Lionel is a bit worse after that crash than we realized, because yeah, I don't know. I hope not. Anyway, who knows? Maybe he's considering going to short course, mate, after that Arena Games performance. Like, I could do this. This ain't so bad. I could do this.
Lionel Sanders, if anybody deserves, I've said it before and I'll keep saying it, if anybody on this planet deserves to be esports world champion, it's Lionel Sanders. He's put in the hours. He's done his 10,000 hours, mate.
100%. Get that guy a world title. Definitely. He actually has one, doesn't he? He's an ITU long course champion, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Sounds right to me. The women's race. Now, the women's race was pretty good, I think. Now, I'm very happy to say that I did on the record say that Tamara Jewett is one to watch, because she ultimately won the race. But let's talk about the breakdown. Holly Lawrence absolutely smashed everybody in the swim. She swam 24:15. She was over a minute and a half clear, I think. Kat Matthews was in second, and Paula Finlay, Tamara Jewett, and Chelsea Cedaro all got out in 3rd, 4th, and 5th place. The gap closed to Holly pretty quickly, and then I think it was Tamara and Paula sort of pulled to the front, with Kat and Chelsea staying back. Holly didn't let them drop her. She stayed with the pack, and then towards the back end of the bike, Kat did a little bit of an attack, so she got off the bike with a little bit of a gap. On the bike, Tamara Jewett got a 30-second, I think it was a blocking penalty. So then you had off the bike, it was Kat, followed by Holly and Paula Finlay, with Chelsea 22 seconds back and Tamara Jewett 1 at 14 back. Now, I don't know if you saw, there was this clip of Kat and Holly running out of T2 together, and everybody going, oh God, what's happened? And the second I saw it, I was like, they're having a joke, right? Like, literally, it just looks like they're like, come on, let's go. And the way online was melting down about this, I thought, fucking hell.
Did online think they were arguing or something?
Yeah. Yeah, they were like,
Oh,
"What's
brilliant.
happening?" I'm like, Jesus Christ! It literally looks like two women, sorry, having a bit of a joke. I was like, "Fucking hell! It must be a boring race if they're like clinging at straws, like trying to create the drama." But then, literally, the run, Chelsea passed Kat and Holly pretty early on, and then halfway through the run, Tamara passed Chelsea to run away for a win. She ran a 73-minute half marathon, which is fucking bonkers. Chelsea ran a 1:15, which is also bonkers to come second. And then Kat Matthews after her crash, third place. So yeah, Tamara Jewett 4:08.09 to win. Chelsea Cedaro 4:09.31 for second. Kat Matthews 4:12.27 for the win. And the other interesting one that was a bit further back that I wanted to talk about was Paula Finlay, who was 4:21.52, a whole, what's that, 13 or 12 and a half minutes back from Tamara when she got off the bike, relatively close. But Tamara Jewett, mate, just like Jason West, can run like the fucking clappers, and her swim and bike has come along so much in the last 12 months. She did really well.
Yeah, great to see. I mean, over this distance, she's got a hell of a run, hasn't she? She mirrors the Jason West that we saw in the men's race. You know, her ability to be in the mix and then sort of leverage that run. She hasn't, what we were talking about Sam Long with how he loses so much on the swim. She's not doing that. She's up there in the swim. She's up there on the bike, and then she's within touching distance on the run, giving her the opportunity for the win. Chelsea Cesaro, amazing to see her come second place. Haven't really paid much attention to her since she won the Ironman World Championship, so it's good to see her sort of underlining that with a podium finish and a quality performance. And good to see Kat back after her accident, first race back, and good job on being out there and finishing on the podium. More to come, I'm sure.
There's so much I found from this race. And one of the things I was speaking about last week with Chris was specifically around Paula Finlay, because I think I've said this a lot about Paula. It's like, it's always for me a question of which Paula is going to come to the race. Like, because
Yeah.
when she's on, I don't think I think she's one of the best in the world. Like, she could beat anyone on that start list. And it doesn't feel like that's the Paula Finlay that showed up. And again, I'm not sure. Maybe there was a niggle. Maybe there was something that wasn't quite right. But to see her lose all that time on the run when she was, off the bike with them, it's disappointing. And again, because you don't ever want to see athletes who, have those sort of, not lackluster, but not the performance we expect of them. And I just feel like Paula Finlay is at risk of becoming another sort of Lionel Sanders. And again, I don't want to sound like I'm not trying to use that as a label, but Paula has so much potential and talent. And I worry that it's just going to sort of, all those titles that she could win are going to sort of pass by because of these. And again, I don't know what it is. I've never spoken a word in my life to Paula Finlay, and I have no insight, but from the outside, it looks like something's not quite right. Something's, maybe just, I don't know whether it's she's a bit breakable or if it is a mental thing. I'm not quite sure what it is, but I really want her to fix it, because she's an athlete that gets me so excited. She's on a start list, but what's starting to happen for me is it's making me go, yeah, which Paula are we going to see actually race? And I don't like that. Like, I'd rather just get excited because I know it's Paula Finlay lining up. Now,
I agree. She's got that sort of coin toss element, isn't it?
yeah.
You know, because she can dominate on her day, but her day is not always what happens when she brings it to the race, which is the same with every athlete. Not everyone has their best performance on every race day, but it seems a bit more stark in her case.
So other things that I want to talk about now. I don't know if you saw this. I read an article this week. I think it was in the New York Times. Actually, it was New York Times. It was an interview with Chelsea Star, and it was phenomenal article. Actually, I have to praise Chelsea for coming out and talking about this. But basically saying about how she suffered crippling depression and anxiety after winning Kona. Suddenly
I
she's
hadn't
gone.
read this.
Yeah, I saw it shared, and I gave it a read. And basically, as we have said a lot, right? A performance like that, suddenly the spotlight is on you, and you have sponsorships and media and demands, and it sounds like it got a bit too much for her, and she had to really just step away because it was becoming quite hard for her to deal with. So again, absolute kudos to her for talking about that, because I don't think that doesn't happen in isolation. I think what she's going through is something that a lot of athletes have gone through. So congratulations for that. But to see her come out and come second at that race that way, the first time racing as the Ironman World Champion, it was fantastic to see. Like, Chelsea Cedaro is here, and if anybody sort of questioned that performance last year in Kona, like, this wasn't a fluke. This is the start of I think a period of excellence from Chelsea Cedaro. She is a very, very good athlete. And again, we were absolutely frothing over Anne Haug's 76-minute half. And I understand Lanzarote is a different course, but we've got, Tamara Jewett running a 73 and then Chelsea running that 75. Phenomenal stuff. Like truly,
Yeah,
truly phenomenal.
and the bravery to come out and talk about mental health issues and how it's not depression and anxiety isn't something that just reaches into you at your lowest point. It reaches into you at any point. It can, and having won the Ironman World Championship, it could be something that can affect you at what the outside perception would be your highest point. Do you know what I mean? So that's a good message to put out there, because everyone has their struggles and you never know what somebody is going through in the background. And like you say, to come out and get a solid second place like this, having had that experience over the last few months, is very, very cool to see.
But then Tamara Jewett, man, like, well, what can we say about her? Just, yeah, I know we sort of touched on the fact that she's Jason Westover, but like, this is like Oceanside to me is a significant race where this can be a career maker. No, obviously it's not it, and I hope this isn't the only thing she does. But much like a Beth Potter at short course, where we've seen Beth sort of, she popped on and she was doing pretty well and she was a good runner, and then all the way through to winning a WTCS race earlier this year already. I feel like Tamara is on that path, which is so exciting because I love the thought of having a run battle with her and Ash Gentle. Like, I don't think we're going to see Ash Gentle do what she's done. I mean, I know she has raced it before, but imagine those two getting off the bike together and then having it like, both of these women capable of running close to 70 minutes for a half, truly going for it. Like, that would be something.
Somebody called it, didn't they, in the WhatsApp, in the MX WhatsApp group? Who was it who called Tamara Jewett? I can't remember.
Probably Sean Green, I assume. Any Canadian he always picks.
Yeah.
So
it was really, like you say, she's got that ability, and that sort of there is a real sense that we're going to see some huge run battles over the next period of pro women's triathlon racing, because you've got some hell's good runners in there who have got the swim and the bike to be in the mix when we get to the end of these races. Like you say, Ashley Gentle's going to be up there, isn't she? She's got a similar sort of run. Anne Haug. It's exciting time to be watching women's professional triathlon, because the fields are deep and dynamic and interesting, and you're never quite sure how it's going to shake out. And I love it when a race comes down to a battle on the run.
Yeah, agreed. And then obviously there's Kat Matthews. So Kat coming in third, first race back from that horrible crash she had last year that we saw her miss Kona. Now this, we know Kat. We think Kat's phenomenal. But I think it shows, or it speaks volumes to me about how strong-willed a character or athlete Kat Matthews is that I've sort of, I guess, missed a lot of not the hype's not the right word, but a lot of the coverage around her return, and has been this big thing. And I've sort of not necessarily understood it, because to me, Kat, like, I've never doubted Kat was going to come back, and I never doubted that she was going to come back and be as good as an athlete she was, because of the person that she is. So I'm not surprised by this in any way. So to see everybody shocked and, oh my God, it's an incredible return. It's been a bit, I'm not discredit. I've just been a bit like, are we that surprised? Like, Kat Matthews is class, and a bike crash isn't going to stop her. I understand it was a hideous bike crash, but again, I guess what I'm saying is I'm not surprised to see her come back and have that performance, because she's such a good athlete. And much like Lucy a couple of years ago, where we saw Lucy, feels like she's missed out on time and wants to go and try to make up that time. I think we're going to see Kat do something similar this year. And again, all roads are leading to Kona. If we have all of these women in good form at that race, it's going to be pretty exciting. So great to see Kat back on the start list.
Yeah, totally. And I get what you're saying, because from the outside looking in, as a consumer, as triathlon, as a sporting product, it's easy sometimes to think, oh, someone's had an accident, they will recover, they will come back racing again. But then there's the psychological side of that journey and what it does to you in terms of the impact that crash had on you, and the doubt sometimes that can creep in to whether you can do what you did before. And it's often as an audience member difficult to take that into consideration. So yeah, but like you say, I agree completely. We know Kat, we've known Kat for a while, and it was kind of like, oh yeah, of course she's got that ability to come back and perform where she was, if not better, eventually. So yeah, more to come.
Now we can talk about the race itself, mate, because You said the same thing where uh, the timing wasn't right, and then you had all these people complain, so you didn't bother watching the race, and that is 100% my experience too. I think the race broadcast like 3 a.m. my time locally, like some stupid time where I was never going to watch the race live, but I was so keen to watch the replay. And my very, very first experience with the broadcast of this race was I opened Twitter and Ironman have the highlights of the athletes finishing. And so I'm like, yeah, okay, let's have a look, see who won the race. And I open it and it's Tamara Jewett running to the finish line. And again, I should know. And I'm really sorry that I don't know the name of the male commentator who always says Dee 76,000 times a broadcast. But it's like, and here she comes, your athletic brewing Ironman 70.3 Oceanside champion, Tamara Jewett, like this. And I thought, is this, am I like overly sensitive to this? Or is that possibly the most boring commentary of an incredible race victory I've ever heard? So much so that I roll over to my wife who's next to me in bed, who doesn't give a fuck about triathlon. I'm like, just objectively, can you watch this and tell me, does this guy sound bored? And Des goes, yeah, that guy hates triathlon. I'm like, okay, it's not just me, which led to me I put up a tweet on Saturday saying that exact thing, or Sunday. How are we meant to make this sport an exciting broadcast when the people commentate and it sound bored? She just runs 73 minutes to beat the Ironman World Champion, and the guy sounds like he's fallen asleep at the finish line. And then the number of responses and comments and messages and things I have now gotten and seen about how shit the broadcast was, about how it wasn't working, how the commentators didn't know what they were talking about. It's just, I'm so sick of it, mate. And I know we talked about how I'm sick of or bored with triathlon content, but I think the racing stuff is okay. Then this happens and completely fucking disproves everything I've said. Not even just that though. Even on that short 30-second clip that I just spoke about, showing the finish line of Tamara Jewett, running away to her victory, some fucking guy just walks across the camera. Like, it's just.
Yeah, I got a message from somebody saying, "Did you watch Oceanside? Was your coverage jumping all over the place? Drove me effing crazy. It was outside plus they had some serious glitches." I mean, it sounds like they not only had glitches, but they also had production issues. The idea that the coverage was just terrible before the glitches came on. Commentators weren't as informed as they should be in terms of what was going on. That probably, to give them their due, probably might not have been their fault, because you know what it's like at a live event when you're brought in to commentate on something. It all depends on the quality of the information that you're fed so that you can actually put it out to the public. And it doesn't look like they were being fed quality information.
Have you
seen
the clip?
Shame.
Have you seen the clip?
No, I haven't. No.
I'm gonna play you the audio so you can hear it. How's that sound? And I don't think I'm gonna get copyright striked or anything like that. I don't think. Let's see if I can.
Brewing Ironman 70.3 Oceanside champion is coming to you out of Canada. She has done so by an incredible run off a great swimming bike. Tamara Jewett, your champion today.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, it almost sounds like it was re-recorded. Do you know what I mean? You know when live commentary is not live and someone's just faking it? Sounds a bit like that.
I know a little bit about that. I know about faking it, pretending to be in a live interview, but like that is the most, like, all I think about. And it was so weird because that same day I then watched the Melbourne Grand Prix, and fuck me, those guys know how to commentate a race. Like the excitement they get off the start of the race. It almost makes me laugh about how hyped they get over the start of a race, and to hear like that, to then listen to the F1, I'm just like, how the fuck is there such a difference? And again, I don't think it's fair to necessarily blame the commentators, because one of the things a lot of people say is like, how do we do better? And I've said it, we need to have actual commentators doing this. This reliance on former athletes who are again, they're not commentators. It's like I'm not a commentator. I would do probably just as bad a job. We have these people out there, the Will McCloys, the Craig Hummers, I don't know.
Yeah. And then what you know the setup, don't you? You know the setup for every sporting event. You have your professional commentator who's there to constantly feed, and then you have your sporting expert or two next to them who answer the questions and add some insight and some input. That's how every single sport does it. apart from
Every
triathlon.
single sport. I beg to differ, good sir, because not Ironman. Like I just like again, if you let's say through an incredible feat of skill through Ironman's marketing, they convince everybody in California, go, oh yeah, they've piqued my interest. The marketing was so on point, and I'm so excited about seeing Leo Berger, the shepherdess himself that I heard about on the MX Endurance podcast, Races Race. Let's give it a watch. And they turn on and that's what they're hearing. You're just like, you would, I am a fan. I love triathlon. I'm a fucking tragic for it. I didn't watch that race mostly because the technical stuff were known, but that just, I'm so sick of it. It's, fucking, I feel like I'm just a broken record with this shit now, mate. Like it's just.
I know. And I was going to watch it. I was going to watch it the next day, but I didn't because I got so many comments from people telling me it wasn't worth watching and it was terrible.
Can't.
So
you need an outside subscription.
Indeed, because I didn't watch it live. So I just looked at the results and that did me for my content.
Why would you pay for that?
The sport isn't going to grow when you can when checking the results does you, because you know that the actual experience of watching it is going to be so terrible you can't be asked to pay for it. It ain't the way. It ain't the way.
And again, I should say this is not just Ironman's fault. I watched the New Zealand New Plymouth World Cup race a few weeks ago, and it was fucking unwatchable, mate. It was like one guy with a shaky cam on the back of a motorbike. The whole time was like, I'm like, what are you doing, man? It's called a gimbal. Just hold the thing so your fucking thing's not shaking all the time. Yeah, I'm sick of it being such a fucking thing where it's like we're Stockholm Syndrome, right? And anytime you raise it, people go, no, it's fine, it's good enough. Fuck off, it is. It's not good enough. It's shithouse, and we deserve better. Do better.
It is good enough for those people that are so desperate to see triathlon that they'll happily watch it. That's good enough. No. I mean just the people that are just like, I really want to see our sport on TV because I'm obsessed. It's good enough for that, but it's not good enough to widen or gather an audience. We know that. It's not good enough to grow an audience. It's not good enough to turn heads. It's not good enough to add excitement. Like you say, now my main problem with the sport at the moment is how much it's been letting me down as an audience member since 2019. Since I was sat in the back of my car recording that podcast with you, and we did that one episode where we were just so excited for 2020 and the year it was going to be. I know that we've had a pandemic in between then and now, but the sport is constantly letting us down. And Frodeno pulling out of Oceanside was just another one of those examples. You follow Formula One. If we're talking about Formula One, you know that 99.9% of the time, the people that are going to be sat in the car at which racetrack, which weekend, racing each other. Now, Formula One has its issues. Some cars are faster than others. And at the moment, we've got a bit of a domination from Red Bull going on. But there is a narrative within that, and they sow a story that you are interested in. And you're going to see those people racing each other, at least for the first corner, every single race weekend. With triathlon, you try to get excited about something, and people are always pulling out, not racing. And you think, oh, when am I going to get to see my favorite athletes actually go toe to toe
against each other?
Against each other, yeah.
Yeah. Oh man.
And that is my biggest concern with the sport at the moment, is that we seem unable to construct that assurance to your fan base that if you invest in this sport, you will get a return as an audience member, because at the moment we're not.
So I'm not gonna name names. I will not name the person that I was talking to about this exact thing this week. But this person, read into it if you will, tried to establish a new form of racing that was very much based on F1. Close circuits, made for television, exciting, disruptive, meant to have the best of the athletes race every time they race each other. You get a contract, you're committed to the whole race series. Again, not naming names. Who could this be? I don't know. And the athletes didn't support it because they're still too interested in pursuing the Olympic, national federation sort of thing. And that's half the problem, right? Is that you've got the concept right, but then it's this fucking thing where I just don't know.
That's half the problem. The other half of the problem is that even if you do that for the longer course athletes who aren't interested in the Olympic thing, the sport hasn't got the money in it at the moment to allow the athletes to, Formula One, you're a Formula One
$11 million a broadcast. 11 million.
Yeah, you're getting God knows how much money to pay your salary. You don't have to and you've got a load of sponsorships. You're not eking out a living, going from race to race, trying to find a bit of prize money, trying to get a sponsorship here, making sure you get a result here so that the sponsor will look at you. There's no eking out in that ecosystem. Whereas in triathlon, you've got people that are just desperately trying to make a living. And so their reaction to anybody that tries to build a series is it going to be paying me enough to put food on the table and pay a mortgage? If it's not, then I'm going to be taking my own way through the season to maximize my income, as opposed to saying, yes, I will invest in your race series. Because if they invest in the race series, they may not make enough money that year unless they win it, let's say, if there's prize money. So it's a chicken and an egg, because in order to get all the athletes involved, you need to have a race. You need to say, right, okay, this race series is going to be this much money just to be involved. And then you're going to get this much money if you win it. And it would take the reliance off their own individual journey through the season.
Almost like take away the bonuses that you pay at the end of the year to athletes and make it a contract to race their series of races.
Yeah, no, look, there are ways to do it. But the problem you got is as soon as one person isn't doing one race and has gone to do another, someone else will go, oh, well, they're not doing that race, so I'll sneak in there and get the prize money for that. It's like a moving sort of who's racing what, who can try and maximize their income for the year. What we need is a ecosystem full of athletes that are the top 20, top 30, I don't know, who are making more than enough money to survive, and so therefore can be locked in to the races being the most important thing, and not the pathway through the season to maximize that income.
Speaking of enough money to win and survive, we have another big money race happening this weekend. The aforementioned eSport World Championships. The Arena Games are heading to London for their grand final. $7,500 for the win to win a world title at the Arena Games. Big money. But we have some names on the start list. We'll do a quick preview. I don't have heaps to say about this race. But in the men's race, the names to watch: Chase McQueen, who won in Montreal; Henry Schoeman, who won in Cersei; Jamie Riddell, the South African Superfish; Gustav Eden, the Ironman world champion, is there in the men's race. In the women's race, we got Beth Potter, Cassandra Beaugrand, Kate Wolf, Sophie Lynn, and Zanette Bragmeyer, who also won their one of the previous ones. But what are we thinking about the Arena Games at grand final in London?
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to watch. I will be watching this one. I do love the Arena Games, and I'm pulling for Henry, mate. I'm pulling 100%. For Henry on the men's side, without question. I would like to see him really finish this off and underline his comeback from the difficult few years he's had. Great bloke, and he deserves it. On the women's side, I think Beth Potter will do it, won't she?
I think Cassandra.
You think Cassandra?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think it'll be an interesting shakeout in London. Are they racing in the same place that they did last year? Is it sort of Mud Dock area?
No idea. Don't care.
Oh, there you go.
I know London. I don't barely at all. Yeah, I definitely pulling for Henry. I think Gustav is not going to go very well. I think it's just, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, He's there as, like you say, a different athlete would have brought more eyes, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I am excited to see how Kate Wolf goes, under 23 world champion. Beth Potter, again, as I said, the momentum, and she's very, very good at the Arena Games. She's probably been the most consistent participant of the Arena Games up until this year, really. So it'll be good to see how she goes. But yeah, Henry Schoeman, mate, come on, Henry, do your thing, mate. You deserve it. It'd be great for you to get that. It'd be a really good way to sort of cement that return and get things going.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the Arena Games. Now, the last thing we're going to touch on quickly, because we're doing pretty well for time this week, is the other little article that I saw before we hit record today. And again, not a surprise, but there was some stuff in this article, I think it was from Tri 24/7, which was saying that we are likely going to see Jan Frodeno versus Alistair Brownlee versus Christian Blumenfeld in PTO European Tour in Ibiza, which is one thing. But the interesting thing that I wanted to talk about a bit more was that Christian's coach, Olav Alexander Boo, came out and said that they don't believe Christian is going to be competitive for or going to focus on the WTCS overall world title this year. Instead, his focus is to try to retain the PTO #1 ranked position. So what do you think about this information, mate? All of it?
Yeah, I mean, it's good to see. It's good that we're gonna get that Blumenfeld Frodeno Brownlee lining up in Ibiza.
Ibiza, sorry.
Blumenfeld not focusing on the WTCS. What drives that, do you think? Because I would have thought from a purely athletic perspective, having another title would be more beneficial than having something that finishing the year as number one doesn't come with a rosette, does it? Exactly. I mean, that's my pathway here. Is, I mean, ultimately, he's been driven by the money that world number one spot will bring him, which is fair enough. I completely get that, and he's won titles, and he will win more titles. So I can understand how he might prioritize that over the WTCS title, because he's got one of those. And I think staying number one in the PTO rankings, not only does it bring him more financial success, but it also means that he is sharpening his longer course racing, his mid to longer course racing, and able to win more titles as the year progresses.
So, you know, there's this weird thing about this year. I don't know if you know this, but it's a pre-Olympic year,
I had heard, yeah.
Which means all rules are off a little bit. And I am very curious about this, because I guess it gives us a little bit of insight into how that Norwegian system or that Norwegian machine is working. Because if they're coming out this early, I mean, again, everything they say could just be complete bullshit, right? It could just be mental games or whatever. But I sort of interpret this as they're saying, we don't want Christian to that super pointy end until Paris.
Yeah.
All we need to do is tick the boxes to get him qualified for the Olympics, and then who gives a shit? Because our focus is next year, June, July, whenever it is. So fucking, you know what? If you can do that, and we know that they are very high volume athletes, if you can do that and at the same time go and do some, you know, big money races, and, you know, if Christian goes and does, you know, 2 PTO races and finish one, that's 300,000. It's a bit less now. About $300,000 US he's going to make. Not bad for a year where you just sort of like, I'm not going for titles this year. I'm going to focus on, you know, just trying to qualify the Olympics. And I also think we'll probably see him try to defend his world title in Finland. But the excitement for me is very much that finally, again, I'm so nervous to say, we talk about like being what version of Paula Finlay we're going to get. I'm so nervous to say this, considering 2 of these 3 athletes seem a little bit fragile lately. But if we could get Jan versus Alistair versus Christian in Ibiza, my God, that would be probably the most hyped for a race I've been since 2018's Jan versus
I'm giving up on it though, mate.
I know.
I'm giving up on it.
No.
It ain't going to happen. There'll be injury, there'll be illness. It will just be, none of them will race.
And
none of them will race.
Here's the interesting thing, right? Because I would assume that we're probably going to see Gustav at that event too. But nobody's talking about Gustav Eden, right? It does show the value of those gold medals. The fact that what we want, like Gustav Eden to me is probably the best at this distance, you know, this middle long, like he's the best at the moment. But we aren't excited about seeing Gustav in there. I mean, I am, but that's not the headline, right? The headline is the last 4 Olympic gold medalists lining up against each other. That's cool, man. God,
it is cool. It is cool. And oh my God, I hope it happens.
Fucking
but
hell.
Will it happen?
I'm too nervous to like get excited about it. So
when is the Ibiza race?
6th of May. 6th of May.
Okay.
So it's a month away.
You know, a month away, yeah. Come on. Come on, boys. Come on. Just bubble wrap the fuckers.
Fucking bubble wrap. Again, I'm super curious what's going on with Christian, because he's just been MIA at the start of this year. And we know he got a bit sick, and there's been whispers he got injured. God, I hope he's not. I hope he's just ready to fucking imagine those 3 just absolutely. Yeah, anyway, let's not get ahead of ourselves. James Bale, we're done for this week. If you want to let people know where they can find information about us, take it away.
If you want to find out more about MX Endurance, head to mxendurance.com or search MX Endurance on Facebook, or at MX Endurance on Twitter or Instagram. If you want to follow me, I'm at bale.james85 on Instagram, or you can follow Tim at T414 on Instagram. Jump onto iTunes, give the show a review. You can do it in the podcast app. It really helps us out, and it is super easy. If you like what you're doing, tell a friend, help us grow. If you've got any suggestions, guests, comments, or criticisms, then DM Tim Ford directly.
Or don't. I'm okay if you don't, to be honest. What was I going to say? There was something. Happy Easter, everybody.
Merry Easter, everybody.
Did I tell you that? I don't know if I said this to they've got like Easter bunnies at my local shopping center for kids to have their photo taken with the Easter bunny. Is that a thing because I've never seen that before. I thought that was a Santa
Not
Claus thing.
really. I mean, there's a shit ton of Easter eggs in the shops, but I don't think it's not like I've convinced my children that the Easter bunny's actually evil.
I know you've done this, but
drags children away in the night.
You're a parent, so that's the other thing I've heard this year. Because now I'm the cool uncle, so I'm going to see my nieces tomorrow on Good Friday. So I've got fucking heaps of chocolate to just take, drop, and run away. But I heard that there's something called an Easter present, and you're meant to buy kids presents at Easter like Christmas. Is this a thing?
Yeah, that's the capitalist marketing machine, mate, that's got you there. Okay. No, you don't have to get anybody anything at any point ever. It's not an obligation.
Oh, no.
Don't get them a present.
No, I won't get them a present. I will get them a lot of chocolate, like as much chocolate as I can, just to make them super sugar high. And then go, bye-bye now. I'm out of here. Toodaloo. Just like we're out of here, James Bell. Until next week, thank you guys. Talk to you later.
Cheerio.